Welcome everyone to the Street Dog Podcast, brought to you by the Street Dog Coalition. We are a national nonprofit providing free medical care and related services to pets of people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. I'm your host, Daria Tavana, and I'm also the Director of Development at the Street Dog Coalition. So, on the Street Dog podcast, we explore the world of animal welfare through the eyes of experts, street dog vets, and volunteers, and other organizations doing incredible work in the world of animal welfare. So, if you're tuning in live on Facebook, it is so great to have you here. Go ahead, drop an emoji in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from, and please don't hesitate to ask a question if you feel inspired to, or leave us comments, leave us emojis, leave us love. We love it. And if you're listening on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, please make sure that you're following the Street Dog Coalition on Facebook so that you can also tune in live with the jazz hands live every episode. And that's going to give us the opportunity to engage with you in real time, which we love to do. So without any further ado, on today's episode, we have truly one of my favorite people in the world, and he's going to be very, very modest and nice about that. But we have Christian Snyder joining us. Christian is the volunteer coordinator at the Animal Welfare Association of New Jersey, or AWA, as we call it. And for those of you who don't know, AWA is a private nonprofit animal welfare organization that operates the oldest and largest low-cost pet clinic, adoption center, and no-kill animal shelter in southern New Jersey. Now, through a variety of innovative programs, including adoptions, veterinary services, pet therapy, and humane education, AWA strives to ensure that animal companionship is accessible to everyone. So without any further ado, I want to welcome Christian. Hello, Christian. Yeah.
Hi. Hi, Daria. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me because, I thought that was amazing. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Christian. And I want to give our audience a bit of insight into my relationship with you. So I am a volunteer at AWA, where I spend some time socializing cats, doing some administrative things, working on the education side of things, mostly socializing cats because they're so cute and I cannot get enough of them. And Christian is my supervisor at AWA. And I want to just say, Christian, that you have such an incredible way about you. You are so, I think, committed to animal welfare in a way that is you don't see often. You're just very passionate. You are very lighthearted and spirited, despite, I will speak on your behalf and say, surely burned out, as everyone working in the shelter system is. So you're just such a light in my world and in the world of all of the volunteers that have the pleasure of working with you. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today.
Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And, I always have, so far, all I've said about you around here is that you are the perfect volunteer because you definitely do so many different things here. And we really appreciate it because without your hands, we can't do a lot of the things that we do. So kudos to you as well. Definitely.
Thank you. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, why I invited Christian here, was solely to give me the compliment. And now we can just go off there. No, Christian, thank you so much. That means the world to me. And AWA means the world to me. And maybe you can kind of share with us some of the, besides working with me, of course, some of the rewarding experiences that you've had working with volunteers, and how these volunteers have made a difference in the lives of animals. And I should say, before I let you answer that question, our organization, the Street Dog Coalition, is run almost entirely by volunteers. They are
Wow.
the lifeblood of our organization, which is why I really wanted to bring you in to talk about your experiences with volunteers and how volunteers change animals' lives at AWA, because we can really relate to that here at the Street Dog Coalition.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I like to think of it as, especially since being here 2 years, and I experienced the volunteer program from a different perspective. So a lot of those volunteers I have gotten to know personally. They've been part of the programs that are under my leadership. So that kind of made that transition easier because I transitioned in May into this position. And it made it easier only because they got to know me, I got to know them. And at that point, I was able to see things on the other side and be able to know, okay, there's this that's going on, there's that that's going on. How can I now I'm in a position to change it? So now how can I make it better? You know, and I think to answer your question is that it is just a group of people who want to make a difference in their own way, and they come from different backgrounds, they come from different, you know, walks of life, and they come with different skill sets, they come with different education backgrounds. So we take all of that into consideration and be able to utilize that here to know that they can help anywhere that we need hands, and definitely that's important. But in the end of the day, if we have stuff here that they can gear more towards their skills, then we will do that. And it's amazing to see that passion. It's amazing to see them come in and want to be part of the process. It's amazing when I, you know, send out a plea and say that we need hands for this, that I get responses and people, you know, reach out to me and they say, I can definitely help. When do you need me there? And those are the most important things for me because, you know, those are people that really want to contribute their time and efforts to the experience here. And ultimately, whatever they're doing on this property is helping the animals in the long run. So they may not be indirectly involved with the animals, but they're doing other things that in the end, fundraising, or being part of the admin team and helping the admin team, or being part of, you know, the adoption, whatever it may be, they're still contributing their efforts towards that mission. So it's a group of individuals that want to make a huge difference, and I love seeing that every day. And everyone's different, and they have different experiences, and you know, it really means a lot to me to see that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that insight. And I think it's so cool because AWA is such a big expansive organization and facility,
Hmm.
there are so many opportunities for
Yes,
individuals to get involved, from like
exactly.
laundry to washing dishes to walking dogs to helping in
Yep,
outreach events.
yep.
So I really, and I can speak from experience as a volunteer at AWA. I think that you personally do such an incredible job at giving individuals so many different avenues to pursue when it comes to volunteering, so many different ways and opportunities for them to align their skills and their interests with the needs of AWA, that it's this almost beautiful orchestra happening all the time with you at like the helm of this orchestra, and you really do make it look easy, and I know that it's not easy.
It's not, you know, and and it's even in my prior position, uh, I made it look easy. And you know, because I'm more of the type that it's not on my face if I'm stressed out, or if it's not on, you know, I'm just I get here, I try to do the best I can, and I try to not let that, you know, if I'm overwhelmed or anything, I try to not let that affect my work. I try to, you know, be there for the volunteers and the needs of the organization. So, you know, thank you for noticing that.
Of course, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm curious to know, what are some of the this is a loaded question here. What are some of the challenges that you face in your role as volunteer coordinator, and how do you utilize your volunteers to help you navigate those challenges at the shelter?
Well, it's just like anything. I mean, when you have if you have a volunteer program and there are so many different opportunities available. I think oftentimes the challenges are is that sometimes the volunteers get overwhelmed themselves because they feel like, well, if I'm not indirectly doing this or I'm not doing that, is it really helping the organization? Is it not helping the organization? And the challenge is for me to, especially during volunteer orientation, the challenge is to let them see that anything that they do is making a difference. And, I think that sometimes the idea is, especially for an animal shelter, oh, well, if I'm not working indirectly with the animals, then I'm not helping the organization or not helping them. And that's not true at all. You know what I mean? And at orientation, I try to reiterate that it's important. It's important that you realize that anything that you do is fine, and it's okay. Some people can't walk dogs. Some people can't be around cats. Some people can't, X, Y, and Z. So we can place you in different places where it's going to be successful and you're still helping the mission, so how volunteers help out with that is that, when I put out that plan, I say, hey, I really need this person here, or I need these hands here. They reach out and tell me, and they're honest. They're like, look, I can do this, but I can't do that. Perfect. So what we can get you to where you can do something, and then find others where we can't, and just match that up. And especially here with our organization, we have a really a huge amount of volunteers that do amazing work. So those challenges are always nipped right away because, the commitment and the time and the passion that they have is extraordinary, so that helps me with those challenges as well.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so interesting to hear you say that these volunteers are honest with you, because I always find that honesty is something that's like mirrored back to people. So it's
Uh-huh.
almost because AWA, and you in particular at AWA, you're always so open and so honest and so transparent with your needs, with your challenges, with your requests, that it makes, I've always felt that it's easy for me to be honest with you, um because that honesty and that respect kind of works two ways. I've always appreciated that about you and about AWA, is that that like transparency, I think, invites transparency in return. So
Exactly. And I think also that that's important because, you know, let's say we try something. I'm in a position, a very unique position, that if I created something or I created an assignment or I created whatever it may be, and it wasn't really something that hit the ground running or it really didn't work, then I have the opportunity to change that and say, okay, that didn't necessarily work. Let's try to do something different, and it's always about managing that. And it's always about, knowing that if something doesn't work, we don't have to consistently leave it there. We can change it, we can edit it, we can make it better, we can turn it around, we can remove it, we can add something else. You know what I mean? And that's what's incredible about this whole experience and being in this position, to be able to do that, because I think creativity is part of this job. Like, you have to be creative, you have to think of what works for the organization, but also what's going to work for volunteers. So you're just kind of, there's no one way of doing something, so that's what I enjoy about that experience.
absolutely. And I appreciate that too. And I think that's another thing that's really refreshing about AWA, is so often well-intentioned organizations are just so used to doing things a certain way, and they don't necessarily provide avenues or opportunities to evolve their methods, or they're not maybe in an open and honest dialogue with themselves regarding some of their methods. So it is, I'm sure our listeners are feeling really refreshed at the approach that you take and at the approach that AWA takes. Because I've had many volunteer experiences, some of them better than others. So I really love how innovative and creative you are. And I'm wondering, so if we can kind of zoom out and think about like South Jersey, the community at large, how do you think, in your opinion, how does volunteering for AWA contribute to raising awareness and promoting compassion towards animals in the community?
Well, I think it goes back to, and especially you said it earlier in the conversation, that you said that there's outreach opportunities. We have plenty of outreach events that we do. We do fundraisers, we do simple info tabling events. And especially with our newer volunteers now coming in through the pike, we really want to show them, what our organization's about. So it's important that we put those individuals at info tables or outreach events, and we put them in those positions to be able to learn the impact of what they're doing. And so a lot of times there's brochures that they're giving out, they're just talking about the organization. And by doing that, that helps us to be able to have these volunteers prepared. So when someone from the public asks them questions, that they can divert them to programs that are going to help the organization. So I think that's one of the things that are important with the volunteers, that, they have the ability to start out somewhere and be able to share that information and get to know the organization before they dive into other assignments and get their feet really wet.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, even in my personal experience, um, there's always these like unexpected surprises whenever I volunteer at AWA, in terms of like the impact that I'm having, or in terms of like the potential impact I could have. I know that I recently volunteered at the Kids Night Out event with Alicia, and it was so much fun. And for those of you who are not familiar with that event, it's essentially a humane education event where, kids in the community, ages I think like 7 to 13, come to the shelter and spend an evening doing humane education activities, connecting with the animals. And for me, it was really exciting because I famously have very little experience with children, as I told Alicia. And it was really rewarding for me to see, firsthand, this kind of next generation of animal lovers. And solely by providing them with a supportive, safe space as a volunteer at AWA, this safe space for them to ask questions about animals, share the knowledge that they have about animals, and cultivate a curiosity toward taking care of animals. It was this, I'm laughing because I remember being hesitant about spending, God forbid, I spend a few hours with children. And it was one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had for that reason alone. Like I wasn't interacting with animals in that moment, but I was interacting with the next generation of people who will be taking care of animals in our community. And I loved it so much. I'll be doing it again next month. So it's just, I wasn't even expecting that. And now in retrospect, it's like, yeah, obviously that's what we're doing. That's the impact of it. But I think sometimes when you have to like sometimes step outside of your comfort zone, volunteer in a role that you maybe didn't see yourself volunteering in,
Yep.
and then really experience those benefits and make those connections in a new and exciting way.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a conversation that a lot of us here have had, that we were like, we, especially most of us coming from a different generation, we wish we had that. We
Yeah.
wish we could have had these types of experiences here. I mean, I learned more about, animals and experiencing that when I was a kid, when I was watching National Geographic and nature with my dad, and I got to learn through that about different animals and experiences and things like that. But there was never anything at around that time. And this was like, late 80s, the early 90s, and there wasn't anything like that for me to go to and experience, and for someone to educate us about animal care and animal welfare, So for sincere fact that we have a program like that we're able to support the community here, and kids go somewhere to learn about that, is incredible.
Yeah.
So it's great that you have experienced that as a volunteer, and you have such a great experience with it. And you left out of your comfort zone. You did something that you don't
That's
normally
right.
do, and you realized you enjoyed it, and now it's something else that you can do now.
And it's something else I will be doing, and it will be great.
Exactly.
I really wish you could have seen it. It was so funny. Like as I was leaving, like there was a girl that was almost in tears because I was leaving and I was giving them hugs. I felt like I was Santa Claus. It was hilarious. It was so funny.
That's funny.
It was
Uh,
really adorable.
picturing you as Santa Claus. Huh. Trying to put that picture
Honestly,
in my mind.
these kids were a huge boost to my ego. I felt really cool. I felt really young. I felt really hip. Maybe that's what I liked most about it. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Oh, that's
And
great.
we have one of our listeners. His name is John Mark. He's tuning in and he's shared a few comments. He talked about his experience volunteering at Goodwill in San Francisco. He mentioned that when you start volunteering there, they show you this video about empathy, which was really impactful for him. And yeah, thank you, John Mark. John Mark is one of our huge supporters at the
That's
Street Dog
awesome.
Coalition. Yeah,
Thank you, John, because yes, that sounds amazing.
absolutely. And I'm curious to know, are there any specific programs that you have implemented at AWA to let me back into this question a different way. So I know a lot of people who are listening to this podcast, they themselves manage teams of volunteers, and they themselves are wearing a lot of different hats, getting, as I'm sure you're aware, opinions from all different kinds of people, from clients to volunteers to staff members. So I'm curious to know how have you, through either like a system of checks and balances or something, anything at all, how have you managed to implement an initiative or a program that really like ensures the well-being and the satisfaction of your volunteers while also enhancing the effectiveness of AWA's programs?
So I would say I'm going to draw from our pet food pantry program because that program, when I started here in April of 2021, that was an established program that was already here. So that was there. That was here, and I was volunteering for that program. And of course, it was during the height of COVID. So, after a while, when I've kind of seen, okay, I think we should be doing more for the community. We should be doing more and getting more volunteers involved. And then from then till now,
And
last
can
year, we
I
served.
actually interrupt you to ask you, Christian, can you share with our listeners what the Pet Food Pantry program is? Because I'm sure this is very relevant to our mission at the Street Dog Coalition too. So maybe you can just
Yeah,
share in a sentence
absolutely.
what that program is all about.
So the Pet Food Pantry program supports families that are in need. As that's as clear as you get it. And basically, if they need food, we have twice a month. We have a pet food pantry event, and then people who need it, whether you're coming as far as you're coming, you don't need to submit any information. You just come and say, "I need food." We give you food. And that has supported our community largely, locally, and it has extended out. I have had other animal shelters within locally or in New Jersey that have reached out to me and said, we've heard that your pet food pantry program is amazing. How can we start our own pet food pantry program
Wow.
in our community? And that means so much to me because ultimately, we want people to go into their community and look for those resources in their community. We don't want people traveling, 2 or 3 hours away, to get food. So when other shelters reach out to us and tell us that they want, that they want to have something in their community, I'm happy to share the experiences here and to tell them how we distribute food. And that's a huge ordeal, and last year we served 1,700 families, and we
Wow.
only suspect that that is going to go up higher because of the state of the economy and so many people without jobs that and it also supports people so that way they don't have to surrender their pets, that as long as they're getting food from somewhere, they don't have to surrender their animals. So that's a huge impact here for that.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And you were starting to say that have you evolved that program? How have
Yes.
you?
Yes. So when I started and I took it over, I really wanted to use my, just put my hat on because as a kid growing up, I was in lines with my families for to get, human food pantry. I was there. I had to stand in line with my mother and father and experience that. So when I took that program over, I thought to myself, well, how do I want people to treat me when I come to this? How do I want this experience to be? Because I was in those lines, I was there. So we decided to launch the program and be able to make it twice a month. And then our first launch of that twice a month, because it was shortly after we opened the new building, we had lines wrapped around the building. And you've seen this building. This building is huge. So
Yeah.
just imagine a long line wrapped around the building. And I was just the only one at that time running it because
Ah.
I was just basically there with my laptop, and I'm like, "So where are you from, and what do you need?" And and then there was people in the lobby in the back, and it was just so full. And at that particular time, we really weren't thinking about volunteers. But then when it came to my attention, that's like, yeah, you should maybe have volunteers. And I'm like, absolutely. So then from that point on, the program just kept progressing. We changed dates, we changed times, we did this, we did that. We got, it's just we did so many different cleanup for it to make it more accessible to the community and how often the community needs it. And then when I jumped into this role as the volunteer coordinator, I said to myself, I really want to take, all these volunteers that love volunteering for the pet food pantry program and make them into leaders so they can run the program, and they can also train new volunteers to be able to be part of that program.
Wow.
And it has been so successful, ever since the transition. We have now volunteers that are leading it. We have volunteers that, new volunteers that participate, get trained on how to approach the public, how to give out the food. And that has made a huge impact. And so many different people have, had conversations with me on how much it meant for them, for someone to just give them a bag of food and say, and not even judge them, not even put
Yeah.
them in any sort of position. Because when you're, and like I said, I experienced that myself, when you're standing in a line because you need something, you feel embarrassed, you feel, shamed. And with here, I don't allow that. There's no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. Whatever you need, we got you. And that has been a huge impact to the community, and also the volunteers. They're so awesome with that program, and I'm still overseeing that program and still, part of that program. But I do, every once in a while, I do miss the clients, because the clients do ask other volunteers, where's Christian? Where's Christian? Because I was there all the time, so it has been a
Yeah.
huge impact for our volunteers. So yeah, that's a big program here. It's a very popular one.
It is a very popular one, and it's fantastic. And I know that you agree. Well, first of all, thank you for talking about your own life experiences. I think that,
Oh, yes.
yeah, I think that to me, that gives me a sense of where your compassion comes from and
Mhm.
where your heart is at. And the program, the pet food pantry program, is really remarkable. Just the other day at the Halloween event, there were a few individuals who were there who were talking about the pet food pantry program to me, and they were saying how it's just been a huge game changer in their lives and in the lives of their animals. And that's actually how they found out about the Halloween event that we were hosting at the shelter that day. So and I think it's safe to say, I mean, this is something that we feel at the Street Dog Coalition, that surely you feel as well, that, someone's financial status shouldn't, necessarily impact how well they can take care of their animals, right? Like
Exactly.
just because you can't necessarily, afford dog food for a day or for a week or for a month doesn't
Mhm.
mean that you can't take care of a dog or you shouldn't
Exactly.
have a dog. It just means that It's time to connect you with some resources that can help you better take care of your animals so that your animal can be there for you and you can be there for your animal. And it's
Exactly.
just, it's
And you
it's
get people
beautiful.
all the time that reach out and say, oh, okay, what do you need? What information do you need from me? I'm on this assistant, I'm on that, what? And I'm like, we don't need any of that. We just need to know how many pets you have, so at least we know what we can give and help you out. And to them, it's a huge relief because they oftentimes tell me they go to different places and they're constantly barraged with what information, there a lot of private information
Yeah.
that they have to submit just to get a paper bag of food, and me headlining that, being, leadership on that program, we don't allow that. We want people to not feel any shame when they're coming to pick up food for their pets. And, we even have outside of the pet food pantry events, if you can't come to an event, schedule a time and date with me. I can get food for you. It's okay. That's okay too. So there's always access for the community to be able to get what they need from that program.
I love that. Thank you for that, Christian. And our friend and supporter, John Mark, in all caps, says, outstanding podcast, Christian and Daria. A real conversation that
Oh,
needed to be had. Great job.
oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes. And John Mark is also an advocate for animals and for people
Awesome.
who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness. So, Christian, this conversation, not to my surprise, has been really fruitful. I learned more about you. I learned more about AWA, and I've, of course, included a link to AWA's website in the show notes for everyone to
Awesome.
check out. And I just want to ask you one final question, Christian. If someone is maybe interested in getting involved, someone who's living in Philadelphia and middle of New Jersey, southern Jersey, if they're interested in getting involved in AWA, maybe volunteering, but maybe they're hesitant, what advice would you give them?
I would say that don't be hesitant. You will do great. Your hands are going to be amazing to help us, whether it's helping us or another organization, whatever it is. Volunteering is such a personal experience because you're devoting your time, your efforts to do something good within your community. So if it's with us or it's with another organization, thank you for volunteering and making a difference, And if you are interested in volunteering with us, you can definitely go to www.awanj.org/volunteers. We have a whole page for you to be able to look at all the different, opportunities we have. And at the end of that page, if you're interested, just submit your information and then I can get a hold of you and then answer any questions you have. We're always in need of volunteers, like everywhere else. We're always in need of volunteers, but just do it. Just do it.
Just do it. What's the worst that could happen? You'll have a
What's the worst
great
that can
time.
happen? You're helping us, you're helping the animals, you're helping whatever organization that you're getting involved with. It's really, really about your time, and we respect your time, and we want to make that time valuable and engagement.
Mm. Thank you, Christian. Yes, please, anyone who is listening in South Jersey or in Philadelphia, please join me as a volunteer. There are so many ways to get involved, and it's just such a fabulous institution. AWA, really a beautiful building, beautiful facilities. I genuinely feel good spending time at the shelter. I feel good about the way the animals are treated, and I feel great about the way that the people there are treated. So yes, I also want to, you should go to the website. You should absolutely volunteer or make a donation. If you live a little far away and it's a trek for you, please make a donation. And if you have any questions about volunteering, I also want to invite our listeners to just ask me, because I
You're a
love
great
AWA.
resource.
Thank you. I'm a great resource and a huge cheerleader for AWA. And yeah, Christian, I want to thank you again so much for taking the time
No
to chat with me
problem.
today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was incredible to be able to talk about our organization and our
Yay.
programs and my experiences. And thank you to your listeners, viewers, and anyone who's listening that took the time to be able to get to know me and get to know our organization, and I'm appreciative of you, and thank you for everything you do for our organization. We can't do it without you. So you are amazing, and
Thank you.
I thank you so much for being an awesome volunteer.
Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who tuned in today. And Christian, I'm sure I'll see you within the next 24 hours walking the
Yeah,
halls of AWA.
exactly. Stop by and see me sometime.
I will. I think I will. All right, Christian. I hope you
Awesome.
enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you
Thank
so
you. You
much.
as well. You take care. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.